Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I welcome you all for today's e-conference on growing chemical industry ecosystem, the Atmanirbhar Way, organized by Indian Chemical News. Myself, Praveen Prashant, editor, Indian Chemical News, will be your host and moderator for today's e-conference. The Indian chemical industry is an industry of industries with a combined turnover of 160 billion, and it is expected to double its size and reach to $300 billion by 2025. Recently, the government announced rupees 21 lakh crore Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan package, which is going to have a multiplier effect on the Indian economy. The potential of the chemicals and petrochemical sector is huge, and industry needs to take advantage of various relief incentives provided under the Atmanirbhar package. The government is also working on the revamping of PCPIR policy for rapid growth through a mix of right incentives to strengthen India's manufacturing base and attract new investments. ICN's upcoming initiative is based on making chemical sector Atmanirbhar and aims to highlight success stories of self-reliant initiatives adopted by the industry towards making India a truly empowered nation. The Atmanirbhar Chemical Series is a digital initiative. Next slide. It is a digital initiative adopted by the industry towards making India a truly empowered nation. It will be a mix of webinars, success stories, articles, interviews, and columns. And this is a 4-month campaign that we have started from September 2020 till December of 2022. If you see the topics and the timelines which is there in front of you, today is on growing chemical industry ecosystem, the Atmanirbhar Way. On 25th, we are doing for startups. 9th October on government policy support. 23rd on role of digitization. 6th November on R&D. 27th on role of MSMEs. 4th December on role of PSUs. And on 18th December, we are looking at the collaborative approach to make chemical industry Atmanirbhar. Next. Just a brief about ICN. It's a important online user resources for news, views, analysis, trends, technology updates, and interviews with prominent leaders in the chemical and petrochemical space. Our aim is to provide independent, authoritative, and interactive chemical and petrochemical information. Our mission is to be India's most credible information portal for the chemical, petrochemical, and allied industry. Next. If you see, we cover almost the entire industry segment, which is on your left-hand side of the screen. On the right-hand side, this talks about the traffic that we are getting. Majority from India, US, and Europe, and then from other countries. It's a part of Sindhu Media Private Limited, which is a new age media group that focuses on knowledge dissemination. We have 2 portals, which is Indian Chemical News and DG Analysis, and through website, daily newsletters, research-led reports, industry events, e-conferences, we are trying to disseminate information. We also have a repository of video-led content. In terms of total unique visitors, we are at around 18,500, total page views 45,400, newsletter subscription is around 12,700. Next slide. So just the general guidelines for all delegates. Some of the features are not applicable in today's webinar. This is a full streamed webinar and you will hear the audio through your computer or mobile speaker. We encourage you to participate in the discussion by posting your questions anytime during the webinar, and we will take Q&A at the end of the panel discussions. The e-conference is recorded, and to see the recording post the webinar, please visit www.indianchemicalnews.com. If you see the speaker list, this is the inaugural edition of Atmanirbhar Bharat Chemical Series, and we have got an eminent panel set of speakers among us. IUCN would like to thank all the speakers for agreeing to be part of this e-conference. We have Mr. Sunil Chari, MD and co-founder, Rossari Biotech. Recently, they had come up with a successful IPO. Mr. Sohag Raz, Chief Operating Officer, Indian Chemical Business, Tata Chemicals, a renowned name. Suresh Kalra, VP and MD India SI Group. Mr. Sunil Bhatnagar, President GHCL, Mr. Anil Kakkar, Vice President Sumitomo Chemicals, and myself, Praveen Prashant. So the agenda for today, next slide. The agenda for today is all the speakers will give a brief introductory remark with respect to the topic that we have chosen for 2 to 3 minutes. Then we will follow it up with the panel discussion on growing chemical industry ecosystem, the Atmanirbhar way. And after that, we will have the Q&A, and then we will end the session. Next. So the key discussion points revolve around all these topics of infrastructure adequacies, setting up new chemical clusters, adequate feedstock, exploiting export opportunities, funding for the technology upgradation, development of standards, disaster management, image building, sustainability, and green technologies. So with this, now I request Mr. Sunil Chari, MD, co-founder in Rosebery Biotech, if he can give his introductory remarks.
Today in morning, Mr. Umesh Asaikar, जो पहले दीपक नाइट्रेट के CEO थे, he was in my office and he says it is the best time for the chemical industry ever in Indian market. So we were discussing on subsidies by the government of India, and the government of India is promoting very, very proactively in giving subsidies to getting into new areas where we import from China. And this is a big opportunity not only for the domestic market, but also for the export market. The world is looking at an alternative to China, and we should proactively grab this space now, which is like a vacuum. Every tragedy, there is an opportunity. For example, today is the 20th anniversary of the 2001 World Trade Center tragedy, which happened in US September 11th. And वो टाइम पे ऐसा लगा था कि it is the end of the world. दोनों towers गिर गए थे. There were massive bombing, and we would have thought that the whole world will be taken over by terrorists. And a few months it has come back to normal. Corona is there. Luckily for an opportunity, the Corona was an opportunity for us. We did well, and we were brave enough to launch the first IPO, in COVID times, and which was very successful. Many of my peers, many of my seniors told me, "Nahi karo ye time pe, be the second one, not be the first one." And we took the call, and we became, the first chemical company. And you see the massive, demand from investors for specialty chemical companies now. So this is a good time when banks are flush with funds. So if our models are good, government is giving 15% income tax, giving subsidy, on four core sectors of import substitution products. I think this is the time we should make India self-reliant. Thank you.
Thank you, Sunil sir. Now I would request Mr. Soham Rais to give his introductory remarks.
So Hab, you need to unmute yourself.
Sorry, thanks. Thank you, Mr. Prashant, for giving this opportunity to be part of a very important series, the Atmanirbhar Way, which is very, very critical for our country and the economy in a big way. And this being inaugural meeting, the e-conference on growing chemical industry, I feel it is very important, and some of the areas which you have identified for discussion today are very relevant. So I would like to touch upon some of them, especially if you look at when we are talking about setting up new chemical clusters with a single window support mechanism. It is very important to form a cluster where at least one or two large chemical industries there, either from chemical sector or from petrochemical sector. And there are a lot of set of MSME units which are around that. The larger unit might have its own independent systems, but for MSME units which will be surrounding this could have a common effluent system, common utility support, And when they all come together, they also become complementary to each other, where there is somebody supplying, somebody is a customer. Those kind of things can be very, very important. And this is more important for chemical industry, because chemical industry also has a related effluent issue. And also one more thing, when we are talking about single window support mechanism with the government, it is important to get into a system where we just do one application. And there is just one experts committee to give clearances. And in case if there is any internal process is required for this application or this experts to take view, then there could be automated workflow systems which could internally flow through. And as a unit, we get a one unified response from the customer. So that is one area, and I think would be very important. And similarly, when this is happening, it might be important to also look at if we are able to develop a network of gas across the country, either government or PSUs or private players, then that will be very important continuous supply of energy to all these units at cost effective and very, very clean energy that will be there, and efficiency of operations can go up. Another thing I would like to also touch upon is on the exploring export opportunities, which is very, very critical. So maybe either in a government, one of the government departments, or in Commerce Ministry, or in one of the associations of chemicals or trade associations or industry association, we should, somebody or some desk should very dedicatedly work on what are the FTAs available and what are our capabilities, where we have capacities and where FTAs can help us into those capacities, and parallelly look at where the Chinese exports are happening. So there is a possibility of Chinese exports going to other countries to reduce. So all these 2-3 things, if somebody tries to collate together, use data analytics and come out with ideas which could support industries, I think that also would be one of the great things in trying to develop Atmanirbhar Bharat. Thank you.
Swab sir, you have beautifully summarized it. Now I would request Mr. Suresh Kalra, MD India SI Group, to speak on.
Absolutely. Thank you, Praveen. And I think very well started by Mr. Chari and then with Mr. It's very good start, and I would pick from there, I would say. So as Mr. Chari said, it seems like we are possibly at a point of inflection. I don't know exactly there or not, but yes, we are in a pretty good sweet spot right now. And with the help of some numbers, I would like to explain it, why it actually seems like a sweet spot. So if we see, and some numbers can be here and there because it's, especially with the COVID times, numbers are changing so very often, and we keep on talking about what percentage of GDP going down, etc. So I'll just go by the direction how it is. So it seems like we were at about $178 billion of this chemical market in India. And almost $45 billion is an import every year, and about $19 billion is an export every year. So we are in a net deficit, okay, so far. So that itself, one, is a very sweet opportunity for us that we can see. Second is, the global market was growing at about 4% of CAGR for the next 4 to 5 years, from 2.7 trillion to 5 trillion, and then 5 trillion to 6.5 trillion. That's what it seems like. India, with the last estimates before COVID times, was that we could grow almost at about 9 or 9.5% of CAGR for the next 4 to 5 years. Now that is all numbers given by the agencies which really have this job, so I can trust with some percentage here and there, the numbers will be right. Second is, I see China as a great example. Now, we might have our own inclinations about whether we like or not like, etc., but China has done pretty well in the last 2 decades or more than that. So taking example of what they did right and taking example of what possibly we can do better would be very, very helpful for us. So China, for example, and again with some numbers here and there, I guess they have the global market share in the year 2000 for the chemical industry. The global chemical share which they had was almost 6% at the end of the last century. They grew from 6% to 18% in 2009, and from 18% to 36% of the global market share which they have today. Now that's just in a matter of 19 to 20 years. Now, it seems like almost impossible task moving from 6% to 36% in 20 years, but they did it. So they did pretty well. So we might be sitting at the same spot right now. That is one. So opportunity is there. Opportunity is real. That's for sure. However, we can also learn from what are the things which possibly they could not do very well and we can. So we have seen, and I think we all buy a lot of products. It's one of the largest single source of supply for all of us, etc. API, it's even 68% of our dependence in that, etc., etc. So we all have that. But we have seen that with one single source of supply, we have land up into certain problems also. Why? Because they realized that possibly later that environmental issues need to be addressed a lot, that disaster management has to be done better. They were growing so fast and so well, possibly all these things could not be taken care of that one. Now we can do these things right from the start, we can do it right. So we need to ensure that we are having those companies, we are having those people investing in it. And I can see in this panel, some of them already who have that kind of mindset of sustainability, not only the profits, the growth, but also the sustainability. I mean, we all are basically into chemical industry, and we all understand a chemical equation has to be balanced. If a chemical equation is not balanced, it is not a real equation. Right? So we need to balance it very well with our profitability, also with the sustainability of environment, climate, and people around us. One last thing which I would say to close my opening comment on this is, specifically because some people ask me this and I really want to convey it here with a larger group of people listening. Atmanirbhar hona and self-reliant hona does not actually by any chance should be taken as isolation from the whole world. It does not mean isolation. It only means that we want to be a global leader in the global supply chain of the chemical. So it doesn't mean that we just want to do our own things here, and we need to be part of a much larger global supply chain of chemicals, but we must be leading that actually. So with that, I would say that's what my understanding of the whole self-reliant India possibilities is, and maybe we'll learn more today during the discussion with all of you. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Carlos, sir, for demystifying Atmanirbhar in a very simplified way. Now I would request Mr. Sunil Bhatnagar, sir, to speak. Sir, if you can unmute yourself. You're audible.
Firstly, congratulations for organizing this. I think I can see the number of participants show the interest in this whole exercise. Now, one thing this pandemic has taught us very, very clearly is that international supply chains, as my friends before me mentioned, are vulnerable. And there is a need to look inwards, look domestic. This has become a necessity now for industry and for our environment. But it also presents a huge challenge for the industry to ramp up capabilities, ramp up efficiencies to be a global player, be good, globally relevant. There is a huge intent, as is clear from my predecessors who said about policy changes this government has initiated in the last 2 years, very welcome. But now the issue is of easing regulations and really make it, ease for work. That is the critical part of the success in this Atmanirbhar area. The intent is clear now of the government. The on-roading is something that they will have to see through along with industry. And I'll come to the basic issues. I represent the soda ash industry, and we've seen that investments in the last 5-7 years have been very good in domestically. Another similar 5-7-10,000 crores are lined up. But if an industry which starts on day one takes about 4 years to accumulate 1,000 acres of land, then for 4 years that is dead investment. Please understand, industries need fast tracking and help from government for these critical things. Land reform, therefore, is one. The other reforms, and a lot of it has been talked about, are mining related issues. Basic raw materials the industry requires are available in India. Limestone, salt, other basic chemicals. The leasing activity on this needs to be eased. There are actual users in the industry which require it for their own consumption to be more efficient and so not depend on imports. So the easing part has to be dealt with by the government in a very pragmatic way, and a lot is being done in it. But I think some more hand-holding is required. You see, the other issue that really plagues bulk chemical industry is the logistics. I mean, so much has been done on roads, on ports, on seaways, internal waterways. The cost of moving material for European supply to the eastern coast of India is actually lesser than country to the eastern coast. So logistics is a big challenge, and that is an area where the government has to help industry stand on its own feet. We need a lot of support in this area. Similarly, protective mechanisms. We have a very well laid out legal infrastructure. We have issues like safeguard, anti-dumping, subsidy duties. Everything is available, and there's a lot of action on it. The government has progressed on it. But please remember that if a safeguard application for an industrial manufacturer has to take a year and a half to come into effect or to be litigated, then by that time the industry is crippled. So I think a plethora of easing regulations is a need of the hour. And we can, as an industrial group, go back to the government requesting for these ease. There are lots of instances where the industry is today ready to stand up and where the support is required. So really, the trigger of the Atmanirbhar, according to me, is ease of operations, which has intent but needs much more work on. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Bhatnagar sir, for talking about the problems that you are facing and how it can be rectified in a more meaningful way, so that we can we are able to, what we can say, expand our operations. Now I would request Mr. Anil Kakkar, Vice President Sumitomo Chemical, to give his introductory.
Thank you, Praveen. Very nice introductions given by all the panelists. I would be specific on the industry in which we are operating, the agrochemical or the AgChem industry. We also believe that we as an industry, we are already self-reliant, that we produce everything that is required. We also export almost about 50% of our production from India, we do export. But at the same time, we also have another issue at hand, that about 25% of our export similar value is also imported into India. Now, these imports are done, we all can understand a country who must be exporting to India, the same country from whom we are importing the raw materials or everything. So there is a big possibility that we can double our exports in coming 3 years. We are a regulated industry. It is the policies that all of us we have talked of. It is the government policies which are very much in the place, but the actions owed to those policies, they need to be in the direction in which the vision of the Prime Minister is being dictated. So he has a very big vision, a very nice vision. The ministers are making also very good statements, but the life on the ground is, those ground realities are yet to change. Like, we are a regulated industry. The rules and regulations that are implemented, they need to be transparent. They need to be holding a discussion with the industry. After all, we also want to serve the nation. And if we work together, the results of that can come in hand to India. So exports have got good potential. Imports, policies that need to be looked at is that we need to look at it, what is getting imported. We should import whatever we are not able to manufacture in India. So we have materials coming from US, Europe, Japan. They're all welcome because they are making the active ingredients which we don't make in India. Those are the patented products or recently off-patent products. But as far as the generic industry is concerned, we have a position like China that we are making the products. There should be a proper ease of doing business, and we are here to increase our market share in the globe. And so is also the consumption in India. There is an image building of the exercise that is required. I would talk more about agrochemicals, maybe for the entire chemical space. It is felt as that as if chemicals should be uh, given a second line treatment. It is not so. Europe, who is driving the policies in India in terms of safety and health and standards, we talk of European good standards, but if you deep dive, many of their standards, they are Europe friendly. The standards are made in a manner that they are helpful to the industry and not to the outside world, especially to India. So it is India who has to stand and negotiate very well with Europe. And we also need to develop our own standards so that we are able to bring up our industry and our exports and also our Indian consumption in a manner that we become, in terms of the second aspect of Atmanirbhar Bharat, that is the global supply chain leader. We have the potential, the vision is there with the Prime Minister, the policies are right, but the actions need to start. And I think the way we are having a dialogue, I'm sure this series of dialogues will reach to the government, and ICN through ICC will get the platforms where industry and the government will be able to talk together in a serious manner that what is the roadmap of the growth in not in next 10 years, but in next year, in next 6 months. And that's what my summation and request is to begin with. Thank you.
Thank you, Anika sir, for for talking how these policies will come into place within 6 months or within a year time frame. So with that into background, let me now open the discussion for the panel. And so I wanted to ask our panelists, the esteemed panelists, what needs to be done so that whatever the discussions are happening with different ministries, with industry organizations, how it can come and be rolled out in a 6 month time frame. Because you are not thinking of and cashing on this Atmanirbhar Bharat in say 2 to 3 years time frame, but you want to encash it as fast as possible. And industry is restless. So in order to for the industry to catch on, policies need to be rolled out as fast as possible. So with that into background, now I would request Mr. Sunil Chari, if you can give your thoughts and expand on whatever the panelists have said. Sir, you are, yeah.
Yeah. So as Suresh ji said, there is $45 billion of imports which is coming. And, we need to look at becoming leaders in each segment. Fantastic point which he has given. And the PCPIR, the ones which, were made, the zones were made like the Dahej, we need to make them operational. We need to have feedstock for the Indian, manufacturers to grow faster. And each of us, we should collaborate, and instead of competing, we should collaborate and find out ways how we can use effluent from one company becomes a feedstock for another company. Like Suresh said, we have to make this sustainable. And there is a beautiful model in a European country like Denmark and even Finland now. Companies are now collaborating together. So all, 5 of us here, we should collaborate and work out ways कि मेरा effluent क्या है या आपका effluent क्या है और उसमें कैसे use करके, we create gold out of it. This is my viewpoint.
So, sir, if you can throw some light.
So I think a very, very important point he talked about is circular economy. Like somebody's waste could be a raw material for other. That is one very important thing. Second thing is we should also try and see when so much of imports are happening from various countries. So what are the key value apart from the pricing? What are the other key values that those importers might be seeking from this exporting countries or sources? So whether can we establish that, whether it is quality parameters, whether it is service levels, whether it is service assurance, and whether it is hedging towards their export commitment. So some of those areas we try and see and try to build those value propositions into our products and services, so that instead of imports, we supply to them and then they become exporters of their end products or also suppliers of their end products within the country. So slowly we should try and ensure that how the reliance on imports get reduced in the domestic market, and how we are able to increase our capacity utilization, how we are able to expand our capacities and supply this. And when we are talking about this, we should also try and see how we are able to leverage the research space very effectively into the whole thing. We have a very strong research base provided by the government, whether it is, if you look at CSIR, which is under Ministry of Science and Technology, they have more than 1,400 IPRs, and they have more than 30, almost about 37 affiliated research laboratories. How do we leverage that and try and come out with IPRs, come out with products which will give better value than where products are being imported? So that will help us getting into a lot of our Atmanirbhar space and Atmanirbhar targets and space there.
Thank you, Saurabh sir. Now I would request Suresh Kalra sir if he can throw some light.
Yeah, Praveenji. Thank you. Very, very good points already raised, especially Sari Saab. I think how we can help each other, not only 5 of us, maybe 500 of us and 5,000 of us. So that's where it will grow. But there are certain questions I do not have all the answers for. Of course, none of us has. Let's say there are almost 70,000 chemical manufacturers in India. Okay, now, out of those 70,000, many of them would be small scale and medium scale industries, etc. Where we want to go, and I'm not suggesting anything here, I'm just saying that we really need to find out, because the kind of self-reliance model which we are trying to build, and we are talking about huge industrial parks and SEZs, etc., of the tunes of Ludwigshafen or Leverkusen or Zurong, etc. Right? I mean, that's what we are talking about. How these two things are going to fit with each other? Would they be part of it? Would they not be part of it, etc.? Or they're going to be in the supply chain of a bigger player, etc., and things like that. Second is, we cannot, and this is one thing which I'm 100% confident about. We cannot be successful in self-reliance unless or until there are a couple of things which are going to happen. And that's why I raised that 70,000 industries already in picture. We need to have very, very strong R&D. We are not spending enough R&D in this industry. I think I do not know about all, and I'm sure none of us are going to talk about the figures here, but it's about 1 or 2% of our revenues, etc. If you're really, really good, very, very good, possibly 4 to 5%, etc. Sometimes even the FMCG companies are spending more in R&D than the chemical industry. Sustainability. How many of us really know about how many companies are in India which are responsible care? I can tell you, I have counted numbers. Okay, they're in 2 digits, maybe high 2 digits, but it's still in 2 digits. So sustainability, responsible care, we do not have our REACH version of Europe, or like Korea has a K-REACH. We do not have any such regulations which are clearly acceptable to the industry now. Without all these things in picture very clearly, we cannot be the leader in the global supply chain, which I said required for a self-reliance model. So one is that government has to come, and I can talk a lot about it. That's a part of my job. I keep on dealing with government authorities on that. We need infrastructure, we need ports, we need more roads, we need better railways, we need pipeline, we need cheaper energy possibly, because we are one of the largest, most expensive energy consumption in India for industries than anywhere else in the world. We need better feedstock. We do not have enough. I mean, I can go on and on. This is one of the topics which we can really talk about a lot. But the fact is, what government has to do and what the industrialists and the entrepreneurs have to do, I think they have to go hand in hand. And that's what I'm saying. It's self-reliance. It's not just growing our exports by 5% more or 10% more than last year. We are talking about a tectonic shift. And the tectonic shift can only happen when both things happen from both sides, actually. So that's why I said I do not have enough answers to this, but I know there are questions. And we need to have a question and answers from both sides. That's what my take would be on this.
Thank you, Suresh sir. Now I would request Sunil Bhatnagar sir. Sir, you are very close to to the ministry
Yes.
because your headquarter is here. So keeping that into view, sir, as Suresh sir talked about, industry need to do something and the government need to do something. So if we can be more precise on what the government needs to do and what the industry needs to do, it will be of great help.
Yeah, I think, like I said during my initial talk, and I think a lot of people have talked about the fact that the intent has been shown by the government. It's the on-roading that needs to be worked on. And I think, people like your channel or others for that matter, we need to set up a drawing board along with an interaction points with the government. You see, unless we have continuous dialogue with the government, unless we request the government to bring up an ear which people can talk about, things won't work. And you're right, I'm sitting in Delhi, and I think it's very important that dialogues with government at various levels are initiated, bringing out the issues with regard to the gaps in the policy is there, the facilitation is required, and that facilitation we need to do at various levels. So I think opening up dialogues with government and using, let me say, platforms like ICN to take it forward. You see, we do dialoguing with the government on various issues of support. At various points of time, we have done this. But I think a more concerted effort from the industry is required. We need formal platforms to engage with governments at state levels, at center levels, at industry awareness with regards to how we tackle our basic issues. So that is my core point, because the issues of land reform and facilitation of lease deeds and logistics bottlenecks, these are issues that have been around for the last 5-7 years. So it is not that I'm raising something new. It is a question of how we fast track the on-roading of these issues. So I think bringing dialogue with governments at various levels, using forums to engage at this level. I mean, I would have been very happy if today or later in your series, you can engage and request some top functionaries from the government to engage with us at this platform. So those are issues that we need to bring forward, really. The problems we all know, and I think this is not even the forum to bring up all the problems that we have. The concepts are clear. The enlightenment from the government side and their engagement fully has to come on board.
Sir, one question which has come to my mind is the dialogues are happening, and it has been happening for so long with the people and industries like you. But has the quality of dialogue changed in last 6 months? That's what we would like to know from you, sir.
No, you're right. The quality of dialogue has not changed, because industry is always perceived going to the government with a bowl in the hand. That, unfortunately, is the perception. And I think a lot needs to be done on that front. It is not, we don't need support on each and everything. But I had given you a small example of an industrialist who was putting up 5,000 crore rupees in a big plant, needs to accumulate 1,000 acres of land, which is not a big deal in a country like India. Industrial parks have that kind of tracts. Government has ownership of that kind of tract. But if this party has to wait for 4 years to bring that land on board in his account, then that is a challenge. So we need to change perceptions, and for that, a lot of work needs to go on in terms of making governments realize that it is not that we are going for a subsidy every time or for a support on money or finance or interest rates all the time, but we need support in time framing the work for the industry. How this can be facilitated is something. Somebody used a term, and I think some panelists may know. In China, when we talk about industrialization, they use a term called the iron triangle. And that triangle has 3 sides, It talks about the industry on one side, the bureaucracy on one side, and the government on the third side. And these people have to work in sync. Districts, areas, cities in China have known to develop fully because all three of these agencies were in sync. And that is what we have to aim at. So, I mean, this is a never-ending point, but I think facilitation on this, concentrated efforts by leaders in the industry to bring up forums like this has to continue. And it has to be, the discourse has to be taken above the financial support part of it to the, just the facilitation part.
Thank you, sir. Now I would request Anil Kakkar, sir, if, to give his view.
Taking on further to what Mr. Sunil Bhatnagar just said, one advantage that has come during this pandemic, that because the travels are restricted, nobody is flying to Delhi, but the meetings with some of the senior people have been able to be done through the video calls. And perhaps even post-pandemic, if this method can continue, that you can lock in, and whatever serious dialogues that we are talking about, I'll tell you what happens at the government level. They become very, they are not very organized, so to say. Still, they are, the situation, first of all, is much better than what it used to be. And even in the last 6 months, the situation is far better. Now they are better organized. But at a very short notice, they will call a meeting in which the people even cannot travel and reach over there. The agendas are not provided. So you don't know what are you going to discuss. So I think in case, like we deal in the corporates, there is an agenda for the meeting and there is a specific subject which is going to be dealt. The decisions on that can be much focused than the industry going and having a dialogue with the government and the government feeling that this industry wants something which we are not willing to give. So from that, I'm just extending to what Sunilji said, that there has to be a dialogue between the government and the industry for the welfare of the country. The second point I just want to add up is, giving a small example. First of all, we said the low-hanging fruit is to do the import substitution. But just to tell, I have also taken up the subject with the Ministry of Commerce. There's a large import in our sector which is taking place. Everything, almost 80-85% of that import is coming under HSN code of others. So when it comes as others, you don't know what is being imported. So why can't India adopt, like in certain global economies, a 10-digit HSN code? So everybody has to declare what is getting imported. So that I think is foreign ministry, because they lack the data. They try to pick up the data from here and there. So it is better to get organized. So if that HSN code gives what are the items which are getting imported, then the dialogue has to be taken with the serious manufacturers. Also what happens amongst all our companies, there is a large sector of trading community also operating in our country. So if the dialogue is with a manufacturer and a trader, the dialogue is entirely different, because the manufacturer is committing its resources. That is where my third suggestion is, that all of us, we are very clear that we want to make investments. There's a great opportunity because everybody is looking beyond China, coming to India. But as far as the policy regime is concerned, we also need to have a bit of, if not long-term, but medium-term commitments, that it shouldn't happen that like somebody spent 4 years in getting 1,000-acre land, 5,000 crore investment, and by the time that project comes off, there is a change in policy and his investment is not giving a proper return. That's the third submission I have so as to. And the last thing I also want to say is, in the long term, what needs to be done is the research which is being done by the companies and the research which is being done by the like CSIR and other institutes. There also collaborative efforts can be done where India can crack certain new molecules and have the global standards which are maybe at the moment in the hands of Europe or some other countries. Thank you.
So, thank you, Mr. Anil Kakkar, sir. Now, having got all the viewpoints, I wanted to segregate into a short term and a long term. But main focus would be on short term. So starting with you, with Anil Kakkar sir, if you can talk about in short term, say within a year or within 6 months, what should the government and what should the industry do? If you can talk about 1 point each, one for the industry and one for the government, so that things become easy. Because when we give an entire list of things to the government and we do not say which is in terms of preference, number one, number two, number three, they might take the number four, and which would not be of relevant to us. So that's the reason I'm asking you if you can be precise, one for the industry, one for the government, and if you can throw light on that particular aspect, sir.
So as far as the government is concerned, as I said, they need to look at what is getting imported from other countries. And if the capacity of the same is there available in India and that capacity is not getting utilized, then obviously there is a course of changing the duty structure. We also have the duty structure in which the raw materials and the final product, there is a delta of duty. I think that needs to be looked at. The value addition for the final product has to be much higher, because that helps more and more of industry investments. I think from the government side, I would suggest that is a most important step that should be taken. And the other is from the regulatory side I just mentioned, because that is industry specific. I would not take much over here. But as far as the industry is concerned, I think when we talked about collaborations within the industry, there is one change I would wish, that even for Indian consumption, all the people who are procuring products from India, like our Prime Minister is making, be vocal for local. So can we also address, as very senior managers or the entrepreneurs within our companies, that buy from, if the product is manufactured in India, then there should be a preference to buy first rather than buying a product from outside. So that's a collaborative effort within the industry. So we will be helping each other and the Indian business within us. So the Indian consumption, Indian product business also will grow. The economies of scale will become better, and the export opportunities also, there will be a, there is a cost benefit when your size goes up. And these are the things which, two sentences which immediately come to my mind based on your question.
Thank you, sir. Sunil Bhatnagar, sir, if you can throw light on one short-term thing which the government needs to do and one short-term thing which will have a huge impact on this industry. And once it is being rolled out, things becomes easy.
Yeah, I was actually trying not to be industry specific and giving a generic kind of thing, but I don't think any short-term solution is possible for a policy guideline to be facilitated. And I mean, we can't hope for a switch on tomorrow and ombudsman appears and, you know, helps us through all the policy stuck issues. So I think if you then have to look at industry specific issues, I mean, for the soda ash industry, for example, the biggest challenge is raw material security. And if there's one thing that we can think that the governments of the day can do is facilitate for actual users things like fast tracking issue of wasteland for salt cultivation. Now that salt is something that is cultivated in Gujarat and we know it, and because you are actual users, that should be fast tracked. I mean, there is there cannot be no foreseeable ill effect of the same. Similarly, mining leases, there is a policy disconnect between the center and the state there. So I think raw material surety or raw material integrity, supply at reasonably effective prices, those are issues that in the short term can be corrected, because these are issues that only at a state level that you need a little bit of tinkering with. On the long term, of course, I wish that the government would actually execute what the Prime Minister said by real facilitation. And that I mean, like Shoaib Rais had said, at every state government for a project which is plus X crores, I mean, I don't know, a mid-level project or high level, it will be unfair to talk about a value because there are huge amount of MSMEs who are also there, and they have small but equally important projects. But for a project of a certain size, a facilitator should handhold the investors or the entrepreneur from stage 1 to the stage execution, and that should happen. That is a norm across the world. It can happen. It can be done. It is a small policy shift which needs to be done at state level. So I think we should look at these kind of small pointers which can really go a long way in facilitating the needs of the industry to be competitive and to be globally relevant.
Thank you, sir. And I would request Kalra, sir, if you can throw light.
Yeah, okay. So one is for the government. I would say, again, I would agree with what has been said already. There cannot be any very short-term approach. We are in the chemical industry. Okay, taking a short-term approach is, I would say, oxymoron for us. We really need to be long-term because we deal with hazardous chemicals. We deal with very difficult disaster management plans. Nothing can be very short-term for us. But just taking in intention what you're trying to say here is, I would expect from government side, one is we talked about the manufacturers in India already. Second is we are asking about more FDI inflows coming into India. But third, and for my point of view, it is even more critical, is company like ours, for example. Okay, and I'm using my example, and I think Sumitomo is another example, and there can be many more such companies who have some presence in India, but they have a lot of presence outside of India. So we have multinational companies who are present in India. We make products in India, but we do not make all products in India. So for us, it is always make in India versus sale in India. Okay, so every time when I make a decision for my organization here, I try to see, okay, I can make this product in India, but I can also get this product from my plant in US or from my plant in Korea. Is it more beneficial for me, less beneficial for me, etc.? And accordingly, I make a decision. Government has to identify these multinational companies who can make in India, who have all the intentions to make in India, but they are not making in India because it is economically not that beneficial to them. So it is make in India versus sale in. So we are selling in India. We import a lot of products, and we are not that big. There are going to be many, many large organizations in India who are importing a lot of products. It should always be, if you are already there in India, what government can do to help us so that we can start making everything in India rather than importing. So that is one thing I'll put it, make in India versus sale in India. So we should focus more on make in India instead of only sale in India. That's one thing. Second, from the industry, should I?
Yeah, please go ahead, sir.
From the industry point of view, I do not have very short term, as I said, I would refrain from saying any short term here in this industry. Okay? I would never do anything short term. Long term, I think one thing which I always believed in since I am in this industry and I was chosen in this industry, I'm a mechanical engineer and by industry chose me and then I am in the chemical industry for so long. I think one thing which is, in my opinion, missed, and I would like to hear from other guys here too. We do not attract a lot of talent. We do not attract a lot of young generation talent into this industry. It's a very boring industry. I'm sorry saying that, but it's not very glamorous, right? So if I go by the numbers, there are about 170 colleges who get chemical engineers out. Almost 10 to 11,000 engineers every year become chemical engineers in India. But I don't think they all join our industry. Some of them go to investment banking, somebody go to private equity, somebody go to some other further studies and things like that. We need to find a way to make this industry glamorous enough to attract the right level of talent. Otherwise, I think we will continue to be a old people society and not having enough new ideas. We need to have startups into this industry. Okay, I do not see many startups are coming into this industry. So I would say from our side, that is my goal every time I go. And if there are any people in this forum, students who are listening to me today or to us, I think please connect to me. I would really love to find out more and more young talent in this industry so that we can take it to the next level. That's what Village Self-Reliant India is all about. So that's what my take would be.
Thank you, sir. Now I would request Mr. Sohab Ras.
Very good points come up by other panelists. What I would feel on short-term basis, if we are to look at government, so government should try and get a hold of all the trade cases. What are the trade cases happening? Why can't we clear it within 1 month, within 15 days, within 6 weeks, rather than taking it 8, 9 months, 10 months, 12 months? So that's one thing which government could do on short-term basis. Second, government could also do on short-term basis. And wherever there are proposals of investments, what is it that government can do? Form a committee and start clearing the areas. So start clearing wherever it is possible, where everything is in order, clear the area, so people can start working. That's on short-term from government side. Short-term from industry side, what we should possibly look at is, in immediate COVID scenario, we should see what are the safety and health issues which we need to ensure that if we are operating our operations at say 80% plus, 90% plus levels, how do we ensure that our teams are not at risk? How we have protocols, systems which are as per the government, and how do we build on that and further ensure that there is no shock which comes for the unit and for the community and for the employees. That is one short term. And second, also compete with imports. On short term basis, please scale up all the operating rates, compete with imports wherever it is possible. That's on short term. On long term, this is what I feel. The government should help industries become Atmanirbhar by building scale. Government should allow everybody to build scale wherever possible for big industries and MSMEs to start grow. How do we do that? All the processes for land lease, land acquisitions, and environment clearances should be streamlined and should be made very smooth. Why should it take about 2 to 3 years for environment clearance? So I think that's one long-term basis government can do. From industry perspective, I feel on long-term basis, what we can look at is how do we build more and more IP back? How do we innovate new products, new molecules, new chemistry? And how do we, second is how do we scale up of operations? We should also, from industry side also, we should look at scaling up. That's all from my side. Thanks.
Thank you, Rai sir. Sunil Chari sir, if you can throw some light because people are talking about new molecules and you have a center of excellence in IIT Bombay, flush with funds you have recently got. So how do you plan to help this industry grow with new molecules coming in and definitely create a market for these new molecules in India as well as export?
So at our IIT Center of Excellence for Research at IIT Mumbai, we are working on new technologies which are more sustainable, which are more green, especially in the surfactant areas, in the acrylic areas, in the enzyme areas, and in the silicone areas, which can contribute less to the effluent and can give more added value advantage to the consumer. Other than this, the IIT ecosystem is so beautiful, and we are delighted and very happy to be part of that system. And we're learning new ways now. We are turning a lot of batch processes to continuous processes, and this is helping us, create, just sitting discussing in the system there, get us fantastic new ideas. We're working on products which can replace existing, supply constrained areas, and this is which is making us very, very good. In terms of suggestions, one thing which needs to change is the supply chain and logistics in India. This is a big pain point for all of us here. Waterways, railways, should be used to the advantage. The second part is, as an entrepreneur running a chemical factory, we have a set of products approved by the GPCB or the Central Pollution Control Board. And even if I have a similar chemistry product and I want to start production, I cannot produce because I need an environmental clearance which will take 2 years. Now, this needs to change. If my pollution load, my effluent, my BOD, COD, TDS, pH does not increase, then as an entrepreneur, I should be given the liberty to make whatever I can in that infrastructure. And the third is, it took us 2 years to get pollution control boards, permissions, environmental clearances. We started a plant in Dahej in July, and the government announced that any new plant which comes in has to be 15%, will get 15%. Now we started a new plant, but because it took us 2 years for the permission. It is not considered as a new plant. It is considered as an old plant. So the change in it should be anything which starts, after a cutoff date should attract, that 15%, income tax it should be given. Now we're evaluating acquisitions, which have not started. These are greenfield projects. But if the company has a pollution control board license before, 1st of April 2020, it does not qualify for the 15% profit benefit.
Thank you, sir. I think all our panelists have put their views very beautifully and also in depth. Now, let me open to the delegates for Q&A. I have got many such, and some of you, I would request if you can post those questions in the Q&A or the chat mode, and we will try to take it up from there. The first question is from Trapti Kalra, and his question is about, and this question I am putting to Tata Chemicals, Mr. Sohab Rayas, because they also have a baggage of TCS with them. What are the use cases and problem statements where AI-led transformation can aid in solving challenges? So he's talking about artificial intelligence.
Yeah, I think an excellent question. And chemical industry, as Tata Chemicals, we ourselves have already started AI use into 2-3 areas in the plant operations. We have process houses and we have process equipments, and we have already one set of equipments we have already done last year, and second set of equipments we are doing in the current year, where we are using artificial intelligence to understand what would be the best case of operations in that. So we have looked at the history for last few years and what is the best performance for a particular month, and taken that as a benchmark and tried to create the current performance to benchmark with that. And then through artificial intelligence, it gives solutions as to what needs to be taken care of, whether some feed needs to be controlled, whether some temperature needs to be controlled, whether some pressure needs to be controlled. And that is working excellent. And TCS has got excellent team there. And I'll tell you, my at least dream is that over next 2 or 3 years, our entire plant will be operated through artificial intelligence.
One additional question from my side, sir. Does TCS wants to open these solutions to other chemical companies, or it will be only limited to Tata Chemicals?
No, TCS is providing this solution to all the companies. So it's their business model, and they have we have taken their service as a business model. We are their customers, so it is available to everyone.
So it's good that IT companies and chemical companies are coming together to solve each other's problem, and that's what Atmanirbhar Bharat is all about. One question to Sir Sunil Bhatnagar, sir. Sir, you are also the president of FTTR, Forum for Trade Remedies. So what is your initiative around, Sir, Atmanirbhar Bharat, if you can spell it out in short or brief?
At FFTR, the brief is really to engage with government at all levels for facilitation of trade disputes. So, of course, that by itself is a whole huge subject to kind of deal with. You know, you are talking about duties, anti-dumping, safeguards, etc., etc. So in FFTR, we have been taking up issues where we can engage with the government with regards to facilitation of these steps. I'm not saying we have achieved a lot, but there has been some consciousness increase in the government with regard to these trade issues, what the industry feels about it, and I think government has taken steps to facilitate some of the issues which are slightly ticklish in nature are still there, because there are engagements and issues of WTO, etc., which come in. But in FFTR, so like I explained, our objective has been to really work on the trade remedial issues, and I think we have achieved somewhat of a success in that, and trying on keeping a regular dialogue going. On the other, I didn't understand the other question that you had for me.
No, that was the question. And the one more question is, sir, from Lenovo. I don't know whether it's a computer or whether it's a person. And his question is, China is the largest exporter of caustic soda. And what is the scenario now on caustic exports from India? Because you and Tata Chemicals are the leaders in this category. So
we are in the soda ash business. Tata Chemicals does has interest in caustic soda also. Maybe Shoaib can answer it pertinently. But as far as I know, India for alkalis, both alkalis and chemicals, is an exporter of soda ash to small extent to the SAARC and neighboring countries. But soda ash and like caustic soda, which is a specific question, does get imported into the country, but there the issue is something different. It gets imported from countries like the Middle East or Iran, etc., or Japan, where cost of energy, like one of my co-panelists said, is about 1/10 that of India. And that is where the caustic soda industry, which is a huge energy requiring industry. I mean, they are plagued with that problem. So maybe Shoaib can throw some more light on that. But I know for specific that caustic soda, India is a large producer. We are having capacity about 4 million tons. We are reasonably self-sufficient in that also, but plagued with some imports. We are exporters to the countries around us. And Shoaib, if you can add to that, maybe something I missed.
I think we are exporting largely to many of the African countries from here. A lot of exports we are doing, and we are also doing some of the neighboring countries in say Sri Lanka and Nepal. China is also a big exporter, and Middle East is a big exporter of caustic soda. But in the African markets, we are slightly competitive. So there we are exporting caustic soda. And here there is some movement happens from West Coast to East Coast, because more than 60% of the caustic capacity is in the state of Gujarat. And there are demand centers into Eastern Coast. So to compete with other imports coming from other countries, the movement from West Coast to East Coast happens in caustic soda.
Thank you, sir. DP Mishra, sir, former DG ICC, he has a question. He says, how PCPIR will help industry to make quantum jumps? I don't know who would be the right person to answer here. So whoever feels can budge in. Suresh, sir, if you can take this.
You are a better person to answer.
I would know. I think I would, but I would know Sunil Chari is the right person to answer. He is the guy who's going through it already. So Sunil J, pass it on to you.
A good example is Cochin BPCL refinery putting up a acrylic acid plant and on butyl acrylate and ethyl acrylate. This could be good linkage, for downstream products. We could be world-class leaders at this, and this model could be, developed in other refineries in India, BPCL and Indian Oil and HPCL refineries, and also linkages with Reliance Jamnagar and the Reliance other plants in India, besides the ONGC and other anchor refineries which can give us the feedstocks. So each place has a lot of opportunities to go together. We need a concerted government panel which can catch hold of different products which can come out from each feedstock and set up world-class plants.
Thank you, sir. There are a lot of questions on supply chain and logistics. We have a question from Mr. Sunil Bhatnagar from logistics, Vijay on the logistics part. Then we have a question on from Pavitran Kalada. How do we plan to overcome supply chain? So I'm clubbing all of them together, all the logistics questions in one question. And so how can we overcome these? Supply chain is becoming a big problem area, and if we can overcome it, exports become easy, imports become easy. If we can reduce the cost of transportation and also handling of these products because they are hazardous. So how do we do that, sir? So who would like to take this, sir?
So I can give maybe one line answer on this, because this is such a vast topic. Actually, we can continue all day on this. So we talked about it. I think every one of us talked about it. We have almost 7,500 kilometers of coastal line, but we don't have enough roads. We do our business in US, and we use rail cars as the maximum way of supplying our products. We do not use rail cars anymore. Most of our customers all around the world, we supply our products through pipeline. We do not have pipelines. It is something which we all know. This is where I can only say it cannot be done only by the private sector. Private sector can give their right forecast, their intention, their intention to invest in India to the government. But eventually, this is something government has to solve. We can talk about PPP models and things like that, which is also quite workable around the world. It has shown good results. But net, this is one area. Infrastructure, logistics is an area where government has to intervene. And without that, I don't think the private sector can do much about it. We can show our intention. I guess this panel already showing its great intention. If we are anyways a representative of the whole industry, I would say we are already showing all our intentions. Government has to help us take it forward.
Sureshji, I had an additional question on this. When you have different ministries taking care of different aspects of logistics, you have the rail ministry, you have the road ministry, you have the port ministry, and there are a lot many other ministries also which I am not aware about. So I'm just asking a layman question to you, sir. How this can be solved since you have put this basket to the government side? So how it can be solved in a meaningful way, which helps not only the chemical industry, but all other industries also?
So again, answer is simple, but it is execution is very, very difficult. Of course, as a country, we cannot change overnight, and a chemical industry is not outside of this country that suddenly changes for us and it doesn't change for others. Now, you only mentioned 3 industry. I think all of us deal here not only with the ministries, with the Central Pollution Control Board, the Local Pollution Control Board, with the Ministry of Climate Change, with the Ministry of C&I, with the Ministry of Home Affairs, with the Commercial Trade, and now even one more, DPIIT, which has come when we are dealing with China and the border countries, etc. So there are a lot many windows, and it's not easy. It has to be a simplified system. Can we go to a one single window system? We continue to ask about one single window system. It doesn't look like very easy, because as I said, chemical industry is not the only industry. I think there is no one window system in any industry in India so far. I can only think about that we continue to simplify it. If we have 13 windows today, we look forward to go to a 4 or 5 window in the next year and go to a 2 or 3 window in the next 4 to 5 years, etc. This is where I think we all talked about it. Our representation to the government. I do my stuff whenever I have a possibility to meet a government officials. Chari Saab does it, and all other panelists. We do it individually, and sometimes we do it collectively when there are forums available to us. But I think the efforts have to go much higher than what they are today, and government is showing intention. But net, cutting the long story short, I don't see anything happening as a single window system in the next year or 2 years. It has to be simplified. It has to have a right direction. If the direction is right, I think we are okay. Right direction seems like right even now, but it is not moving. So it's showing the arrow, but the arrow is not moving. So we need to move that arrow faster together with the governments.
So direction now needs to get speed. That's what you have said, sir.
Absolutely.
And you have put it very beautifully. You have we have said that you have also given a phase-wise approach that the government should take. Thank you, sir. There is a question from Mr. Arjun Srivastav. He's saying India has been lacking on fermentation-based chemicals. So how do we overcome this, and who would like to take this, sir? Fermentation-based chemicals, amino acids, organic acids, alkalis, and amines. Sunil, sir, if you can.
Can you repeat the question, Praveenji?
India has been lacking on fermentation-based chemicals, amino acids, organic acids, alkalis, and amines. So how do we improve on that?
It is very true. Products like citric acid, products like lactic acid are big building blocks and big constituents of any specialty chemical industry. And these we do not have a single here in India. Even amino acids are big products from fermentation. And the new policy which is from the government, and government has made a block of products where they give subsidies just for setting up plants now of fermentation for products which come from China now. So this is ideal for all of us to get into these lines.
Thank you, sir. There is a question for Mr. Pramod Pathak, and he talks about Atmanirbhar package. We do not see any impact on any business. This is obviously a new package, so it will take time to percolate. But if you have any advice on how it can be improved upon, that would be. I would ask all my panelists if they can give few advices on how they can improve upon it, so that MSMEs and say startups can benefit from this in a big way.
As I said, it takes 2 years for a chemical plant to get approval. So they should just change the cutoff date of starting of the plant rather than inception of the company.
You're not audible, sir.
Sir, I said the cutoff date for the subsidy or the income tax rate should be from the starting date of the plant and not from the inception.
There is a question. There is what we can say suggestion from Kumaresh Mishra. Just like a marriage bureau or a matchmaking bureau, why don't we have a matchmaking bureau for the chemical industry, so that the output for one industry can be used as an input for the other industry, and it will be very helpful if somebody can start this. So what's your suggestion, sir? If anybody...
Yes, sir. Continue, Suresh, sir.
I would say we all would agree with it, and I'm smiling at the marriage bureau concept because I heard this concept in the Western world similar way, but they call it speed dating. So I think it's pretty much good for us in Indian context, getting a marriage for long term. Yes. So
these days it is live-in arrangement is more popular.
So I would want to add there. So maybe marriage bureau or a central agency may not be possible there. But as individual companies, we could look at both from our inputs as to what input we could replace with waste of some other industry, or what of our waste could go as an input to some industry. Like, for example, we have some solid waste, which we are replacing as input to cement industry. So we have built our own plant there, and we are in discussion with other cement industry manufacturers. So some of our solid waste can directly go as an input to the industry, cement industry. And similar kind of things we can look at. We are currently at our innovation centers doing research on 2 different products where we'll be using waste of other industries as an input for our manufacturing process. Thanks.
All right.
Thank you. Sunil Bhatnagar, sir, if you can talk about there is a question from Mr. Anirban Das. Government to have specialized land bank which will propel to start the facility immediately. So if you can throw some light on this particular aspect.
Well, I'm not aware of land bank or in which area this is being talked about, but I've already talked about the need for facilitating land reform and acquisition of land, etc. Where it is a government parcel, it is slightly still easier to look at it. But where there is land is in private hands, then aggregating and accumulating is a big issue. Again, Praveen and all my other fellow panelists, I mean, the issues that have been raised have been all about government, need for government engagement, and therefore, I think the task is at hand really is to have forums, have talking sessions, and have engagement, and probably things like ICN have to be used to engage with government at various levels. I mean, I just read a question from one Mr. Daga, which said, which is addressed to me, which said, if I was just coming to that, looking at that question, it was very interesting. He says, I'm sorry, yeah, Mr. Bhatnagar, China works because government, example of a iron triangle, which I talked, and India runs despite the government. Our governments take a couple of years to match speed of the Chinese government. So in such a So I'm not going to that extent. I'm not being critical to say that government is not acting. I think everybody is unanimous of the view that the government has shown interest. The policy direction is correct, but it needs to fast track. And I think the only answer to that is going and engaging with the government time and time again. That is the only thing, because only then you can have policy change initiatives. Only then you can have policy facilitation initiatives. I don't see there being any other answer. I mean, other than the fact that industrialists and people who are putting money into or entrepreneurs, as Sunil Chari said, they will be doing their their bit for enhancing their cause and the cause of their organizations. But if policy guidelines have to be facilitated, then we look at we have to get together, break our heads, and form dialogue angles with government at every step. I feel that is the only answer.
I will take another 5 minutes, and I have 2-3 more questions. One is on the R&D part, and this I will put it to Mr. Anil Kakkar, sir. Since you come from a Japanese background, and the DP Mishra sir talks about investment in R&D is about 1% of sales turnover. So what is there in say developed economies in terms of R&D spend that they do, and how can we encourage startups to participate in say chemical industry ecosystem? Because we do not see too many startups focusing on chemical industry ecosystem.
That is true. The main reason for that, what comes to our fray, is that it is a capital intensive industry. This is not where you can use digital technology to come up with products. You definitely need a large capital, which is not easily available at that startup stage. And even if they have to make that commitment, it's a long-term commitment. It's not a very short-term commitment which they can jump in and start something and be operative. I think that is what is the prime hindrance. But I think when Suresh Kalraji did talk about the young talent to be coming in India, it coming to our industry. It's not only for they get into the startup of manufacturing, but they are the ones who can build up several models. Like if TCS example, which has been given for AI, I think there are a lot of startups which are now putting a lot of brains into the artificial intelligence. So may not be getting into the manufacturing, but bringing in certain technologies within our plants, which can improve our efficiency, which can reduce our costs, and can make us more efficient. I think those are the areas I would feel that they are open to those young students, but they can also have always better ideas than what we can say, but they're all welcome to. I also feel like, just giving Suresh that example, that whenever I see that a second generation person or a third generation person from an entrepreneurial background has also joined our industry after doing MBA, I say the future of our industry is quite bright. Because if the young one finds to take on his father or grandfather's business, means he's going to change the face and he finds value in this business. So that is very true. But coming back to these investments, like there are R&D centers which the companies are developing by themselves. My take was on that there is a science talent which is there with the government. There's huge investments which the government has made in the institutes, and they keep on doing a lot of scientific work, which perhaps does not get converted into commerce. But a model needs to be developed where whatever these scientists are doing, they can be guided by, I don't want to say guided by the private industry, but it can be a participative research. Maybe we can develop the models where the fruits of that commercialization comes through the industry. Today, the scientists, they say, yes, I have developed a technology, I don't know how to market it. but the models can be really upgraded, and it again comes back to single window kind of operations. Perhaps here some models can become a single window operation where the big company has got a tie-up with on a project, and they can also monitor it, because the institutes also take years to develop a project. But if it is monitored by a corporate, I think the speed of doing that research can also become very faster. That's what my take on this subject.
Uh, thank you, sir. One last question to end up with, and this is related to Suresh Kalra, sir, who talked about making this industry look attractive by attracting young talent. So that would be a good way to end the session. So if Suresh sir has already talked about it, so I needed views. How do you attract talent so that young people can come and make a difference to this chemical industry?
Okay, in interest of time, because we overshot, I'll try to very quickly put just 1 or 2 points here. Okay, so one is we need to make it attractive by one age-old thing. We need to pay people well. If they are getting enough somewhere else, they're not going to come here. Okay, it's hardcore. We can't change it. Second is we need to make it less boring by using the right terminology. You know, and I use my example of my son, and Chari Saab would be smiling. He could convince his son coming to his company. So I think he's smiling. I could not. So my son, if I tell him that we are making 3,3,5 trimethyl cyclohexanol, possibly he's not interested. But if I try to use my language, okay, you know what dopamine is, and when you are sitting with your girlfriend and when you are getting a good feeling, that's all chemicals. So we need to make chemicals attractive. I'm just simply trying to put it in a very cliched manner, but we need to make it attractive. Somehow we get into that space where we continue to use our lingo, which nobody else understands. Okay, that's one, how we need to attract, other than paying well. Second thing is, and which I'm taking it from Kakar Saab, he just said, I think we need to, and it was a very important point, I think I missed it before, and thankfully he said it. It is not only startup in the industry, it's a startup which is related with the industry and which helps us going to the next level. For example, one need which I immediately see is, and I think we all have seen, there are a lot of accidents happen after the COVID lockdown situation was over, and there was a pattern of accidents. Possibly all those has happened because there was nobody there on the ground. The plants were shut down, and when what was happening, nobody knew, etc. And then somebody came and they restarted, and some disaster happened, and there was a pattern. This all could have been avoided if we very clearly have a good artificial intelligence in place, if we have a remote control of doing all the PSSR activities when we are starting the plant, etc. If it can have all those conditions with us, or we, as they call it, it's a industry 4.0 or a dark factory approach where you have minimum human need of starting or running a plant. If we go to that level, at least for some immediate requirements like restarting a plant after it is shut down for a couple of months and things like that, I think this is going to change. And that can be done only by the young generation, people who are getting into new modes and new startup modes, can have new ideas and things like that. So I'll summarize it quickly into these two. One is attracting talent to our current industry. Second is attracting talent who helps us going to the next level in this industry.
I would like to thank all my speakers who very passionately and in an in-depth way gave their valuable time to this e-conference. And I think government should also do the same thing with the industry in the same passionate way. And I think the problem will get solved. I would like to thank all my delegates for being a part of this interactive e-conference, and hope you would have got valuable inputs. And we have answered many of your queries. We have not been able to take all of them, but we have tried to answer as much as possible by extending the time to more than 30 minutes. And I would like to also thank my esteemed speakers who gave their valuable inputs and also the valuable time for enriching us. As mentioned, Atmanirbhar Bharat Chemical Series will have 7 more e-conferences, and the second event will be on role of startups to make chemical industry Atmanirbhar on September 25th, 2020. I would request the people from the delegate side, if they are interested as a panelist, please write to us. My email ID, Praveen Prashant, as well as Yogesh Joshi, the email IDs as well as mobile numbers are there in front of your screen. And let me give a big hand to all my speakers as well as delegates for making this afternoon very meaningful as well as valuable. This is so. Thanks everybody from my side. This is Praveen Prashant signing off for now, and we'll meet you live in the next e-conference of September 25, sharp at 3 p.m. Till then, goodbye. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks for. Thank you.
Thank you very much.